Okay. So I'll proceed with today's workshop. I'll begin. And if any of you hasn't worked until, if any of you hasn't worked until the tutorial 3, then you can download the file from the drive link that I shared, and it has the name robot no materials.blend file. You can download them, and if you want to work alongside with me, I prefer that you don't work as of now when I'm explaining things, but I'll be giving a 3 to 4 minutes break, and you can work similar things during that period of time. Okay, and feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions if you have, or Nikhil and Abhinav will obviously be answering questions in the chat box here. All right. Okay, I'll go ahead with the presentation and working. All right, I hope my screen is visible. So this is the robot file that we had 3D modeled earlier on today, yesterday. Uh, okay, all right. So I'll be starting with this. Now in this scene, as you can see, we have an area light over here. If you tap on, if you click on that, you'll see area light. And this is the model that we had rendered earlier on. So what we can do now is we can start shading it. Now, if you see on the very top of your screen, you have different tabs here: modeling, sculpting, UV editing, texturing, painting, animation, rendering, compositing, scripting. We'll only be using shading workspace as of now. So I'll go into shading workspace. And this is what you see. If you see the top right corner over here, if you see my cursor, you'll see that we are in look dev mode. If you click on Z, you see different views over here. If you click on Z on your Blender file, you'll see different views here. There is a wireframe view in which you can see only the wireframes. There's rendered view in which all calculations will be done for the rendering, and then you can see the view. Since it does not have any materials and it is very low poly, hence I could actually use rendered view in order to work. But generally in a very large scene, it takes a lot of time to actually render and calculate all the things. Solid view is your plain solid where you can see the objects without their materials on it. And material preview, or earlier it was known as look dev view, is what we are in right now. And okay, so I'll go on working. So if you can see, the cube that I've selected is the face. Okay, now for the face, um, if you can see here, it's labeled as cube 019, right? One of the things that you should generally do when you're working is that go on this object, right click, go on ID data, and you can see rename over here. Um, Rename. All right. So if you go ahead and rename, you can rename it to face core, I would say. Um, and that way you'll be able to easily locate your objects whenever you're working with them, and that will make your workspace or make your work time really low. So now we're in the face core. Okay, and we'll add skin. So if you see the object properties tab over here, I'll just okay. So if you see the objects, this is object properties, and if you see this properties outliner, in the very bottom you can see material properties. I hope you can read it. If you click on material properties, you can go ahead and click on new, add a new material. Now what this would do is, if you see over here in your node editor, what we call this is node editor, from top left of this tab, you can see, click on here and see different options. If you go on shade editor, you will see shader editor, you will see what I'm seeing right now. And this has different nodes. The workspace is on the left. This is a file browser, and this is an image editor, which we don't need as of now. So what we will do is, when you go into the very intersection of all these points, you can see a crosshair. And if you go click on that and drag, you can close different workspaces which are not required. So if I go over here, and if I want to collapse the file browser, as you can see the arrow over here, if I go over this, you'll see an arrow over here. That means that file browser will collapse on my 3D viewport. But if I go on the left, my 3D viewport will collapse on the file browser. So I leave it at that, and hence that file browser closed off. Now I have a complete view of the 3D viewport. And I believe that it's better if I have Okay. I'll just open up shader editor again. I think it's better if we have one of the views which is not in look dev mode. So I'll just go ahead, scroll over here and get this in solid viewport. So at the same time, I can see both in look dev or I think what they call it is um, material preview mode, and in the other viewport, we can see it in solid viewport. All right. Now I'll go ahead and add material to this. If you see in this node over here, you can see different properties over here. That has this has base color, subsurface, metallic, roughness, and isotropy, all sorts of things, different things. What we'll be focusing on for now is base color, metallic, roughness. That's all. So if you see over here, if I decrease roughness and increase roughness, what sort of changes take place? Okay, that's important. You have scene world, scene lights. I'll keep that off for now. Um, let's go and turn it metallic. If you have it as metallic, let's select all of these objects and turn them into metallic. All right. Materials. Okay. So now all of these are 100% metallic, and you'll see a little bit of difference when you're working on that. And see, I have zero roughness. So this is a completely metallic and completely smooth material that I've applied on this. Now, if I decrease metallicity, you'll see that it does not reflect light as such. Now, if I keep it metallic but increase roughness, this is how it looks like. All right. So these are all settings that you can play along with when you're working on Blender, and you'll understand more and more how these settings work. For now, I'll keep metallic around, I guess, 0.689 and roughness around 0.5. Let me select the face and let me apply base color around the skin tone that we have, right? Since it's a face, I'll have the skin tone, and I think this would work. So this is the skin tone that we have applied. Now, if you can see, we have all the materials of the very same color, all the objects of the same color. This is because we have the same material applied to all of them. If you see this, it has the name material, the material property that I have. I can rename it and name it skin tone type. So this will be the name of the material that I have right now. If you see all the objects, they will have the very same material, skin tone light. Though not all the objects will be same. If you see the final output that we have, the robot has color of skin on his face and hands, and other than that, it has different colors on its body, that is shirt, pant, shoes, torch, etc. So we'll go ahead and have different colors in these parts as well. So now I've selected the body or the torso, and I want a different color here. Now, if I directly go ahead here and change the base color, this will only be changing the properties of material that I've applied on the face as well. So I want to not link this material over here and build a new material. If I click over here and have a new material, then the torso in itself has a different material than rest of the body. So I'll click on that. I'll click simply on here and select the base color to be around blue that we can see on the main file as well. Blue and a little bit darker. Here we go. And I can give it some metallic properties and more roughness. If you actually observe clothes in real life, you see that it has some sort of shade where it is not really metallic, it's more rough. So this is the color that I've given to the torso. All right. Since the torso and hands both have shirt on it, right? So they will have similar material attached to them. So in order to add different objects having the same material, what you can do is select the first object, press on shift. I'll just on my screencast keys. All right, here also. Okay, so press on N. Press shift and select multiple objects. Now, as you select the last object, the previous object will be shaded orange. Okay. What orange means is that all the properties that you see on the right hand properties tab will be for the object that is outlined yellow and not orange. So if you see here, it has the color blue. That is because of the final object that is selected, torso. Now what you want to do is press on Control L or Command L if you're using a Mac, and it's written make links. What this means is कि बाकी के जो भी objects है, all the objects that you have selected earlier on will have the same materials. If you select materials, will have the same materials as the final object does. So if you click on materials over here, all these other objects will have the same material assigned to them as the final object did. Okay, I hope it's clear. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. You can take 3 to 4 minutes and work on your blend file and get this done. Okay, try it still works. Okay, how to open shading editor? I hope it's resolved. I'm not able to change property of the whole robot, only single cubes. Okay, Avinash, what you can do is select all these things together. There is a option for, yeah, as Abhinav mentioned, A will select all the objects, but okay. But if you do one thing, that is you box select everything. If you box select everything like this is no object selected. If you box select everything, then you can go ahead and change the properties. So if I say give this some different color, but again, changing color over here would only change the color of this material and not the skin tone light, right? So you won't see the difference in all the cubes together. The difference will only be visible if you select all the objects. Say for example, I selected all the objects and I finally select this face, skin tone light. If I finally select skin tone light object and press Command L and then link all the materials, only if I do that, then you will see, observe the changes in all the materials. Otherwise you won't. So I'm just undoing that for now because I hope to keep the difference that I've worked on torso.
I missed the link. The link, how to do the link?
You can press Control L or Command L. Click on Command L and you will see the option make links, or Control L, sorry. Hope it's clear to everyone. All right. So I'll give you 3 minutes more. You can work on your blend file and then I'll continue from here. If you have any other doubts, keep typing them down in the chat box. How to color? Okay. So whenever you add a new material, as I've added a new material, say I click on this, I've clicked on one of the shoes, and say you will see something like this if it has absolutely no material at all. So if you see over here, and the rest of you can continue working on your blend files. I'm just explaining the same process over here. If you see this and you click on new, okay, you click on new and you see material 001, that will be its name, and this is an absolutely new material. Now if you see the nodes over here and see the base color, say I want to give it brown boots, so I'll go down over here and this is a shade of brown. I'll select this and this works. So if you see on your viewport over here, you'll see that it has been assigned the color brown and basically the object has been colored brown. So now I have this shoe and similarly I have this shoe, right? Both the shoes will have similar colors. I'll name this as shoe color. And finally shift and click on this, or shift and click on this. Again, press the Command L. If you see Command L or Control L, make links and click on materials. Then both the objects will have the same materials. Hence, this shoe as well has been colored brown. Okay. All right. How to group objects in face? I'm sorry, I did not get your question.
Actually, I was asking that in that folder you were saying that it would be okay if we group all the cubes together in one folder like this.
Okay. So I think you're talking about box select. All of the objects or
Uh,
all of the objects
this
that are
cube,
selected. Yeah, right. Okay. So what were you asking? Go ahead.
I want to create a folder like this and then uh,
Oh, okay. You want to
move
make a
all the
collection
cubes
like
in that.
this robot. Okay. So what you can do
Yes,
is
sir. Yes,
you
sir.
can select different cubes over here, whatever objects that you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Say for example, I selected these, and I have a couple more objects. This, this, and this. Okay. And press on M. M will have move to collection. If you click on M, and you will see different options over here: new collection, scene collection, or the pre-existing collection robot. If you move it to a new collection, you will make a new collection which will have all these things. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
How to remove a link?
How to remove a link? So if you're talking about materials, whatever things you have linked, you'll have to go in that property and delink from here. So if you see the uh, I think of the preview over here, it's written unlinked data block. Shift click to set users to 0, then data will not be saved. So select the different objects, and you can click on cross over here. So it'll unlink. Say for example, I have this hand, right? So it has been linked to this material, which I've named blue, for example. Then I'll just unlink this from pressing on cross.
Okay.
All right.
Bhaiya,
Yeah.
yeah, I've changed the color from the material color from default to blue, but it's still not visible.
Um, okay. You've changed it from default to blue. Uh, have you seen? Have you selected the object first off?
Yeah, I've selected the object.
And are you in the same viewport? Are you in the material preview viewport?
Yeah,
Okay. Is the BSDF linked to the surface?
wait, I didn't get what you said.
Uh, if you see the properties tab over here, do you see the when you select the object, do you see this principal BSDF
Wait, how do I see that?
from the properties tab over here on the right side? Okay. Regardless, I'll take this up again later if you have a persisting problem. I'll just quickly move on to shading all the other objects, and then we can move on to rendering or fluid simulations or everything of that sort. Okay. All right. So first off, we have these eyes. The eyes should be colored, I guess, white. So let's delink skin tone light and have a new principal BSDF. Since it's already white, it works for me. And I'll select the other object, this and this, Command L, materials. So I link both of them. I select the smaller cubes. I give it a different color, new material, that'll be black. Give it this shade from here, give it black, and select this. Similarly, select this, Command L, materials. Okay. So see what I did here. Now, if I select the second object later on and press Command L, materials, it will give the skin tone light to the earlier selected material, right? Earlier selected object. So I'll just undo this and select my black object finally, and then press Command L, material. So these has been colored black. Now the nose and the lips will have a darker shade of skin. If you see in the final preview over here, it will have a darker shade. So, and both of them have different skin tones. So for the lips, I'll go here, give it some sort of, okay, again. So I have selected over here skin tone light. I do not want to make this change. So I'll delink this, and on the new object, I'll give it a color tone of red, somewhere around this shade. For the nose, delink this, give it a new material with a darker shade around, I think, brown. All right, we have brown over here. We have the hair. For hair, we'll have a brownish shade. Okay. Mm, delink this, add a new material, and give it a shade of around, I guess, brown, very dark brown. Okay, so here you go. I'll name this hair. I'll name this horse. Name this lips. Okay. So if you can see, we have shaded almost all the parts of this man, except for the trousers, the torch, and the ears have the same skin tone. Okay. So we have remaining trousers and the torch. So moving on to the trousers, delink skin tone light, make a new material, give it the shade of a darker blue, if you will. Go down here. All right, this looks good. I can play with the metallic properties or the roughness properties over here. I don't want it to be really metallic, so I'll keep it low and increase the roughness, which gives it a higher feel of something like jeans or salt. Okay, so here you go. And now I want to apply this to this object. So select this object first, shift select the second object, and then Command L, materials. So we're done with shading this much part. Now we have the torch over here. Okay, so when you're working on things like this, you have too many objects here, right? And actually I really want to focus only on the torch, but it's really small and all of the rest other objects are confusing me. So what I can do here is select all objects over here. Okay, and I can press on H, that will hide them. All right, if you want to unhide them, press on Alt H and that will unhide things. But if you press on H, selecting all objects, if you press on H, that will hide them. If I click on Alt H, that will unhide them. You can do the same for singular objects on through the outliner that you have. All right, through the outliner, you can hide or unhide select objects. So say for example, the plane. So I can click on this eye icon over here and it will hide or unhide the object. So I'll go ahead, I'll hide all the objects, but then go ahead and simply unhide the cylinder. That is our torch that we have, right? Unhide that. I'll hide the plane as well. So now you only have the torch in the view. Okay. I hope everybody got that. So again, for this as well, we'll delink the skin tone light, add a new object. Now we have a new object and say I want the torch to be around something of this sort, maybe dark gray. And since it's a torch, I can give it a metallic accent, decrease the roughness a little. This looks good. Now what we have to do here is that parts of the torch, right? The main core of the torch, or if I go into edit mode here, which you can also go through tab, you can switch between that and tab, press on 3. And I can see the torch over here. And if I only select this face, all right, the center face that you have, which is actually the flashlight, right? If I only select that face and I'll go ahead, add a new material from this, or you can do the same from here as well. You can do the thing from here, add a new material, and this material I'll give it an emission, right? So if a flashlight is there, it actually emits light and it does not have a material per se, it actually emits lights. So what I'll do is give it an emission and give it a hue of around yellow, okay? A warm hue so that it looks something of that sort. Now what I will do is that assign this. When you assign things, so if you see over here, we have this face of the torch and we have a new material. But this new material is not currently assigned to any vertexes or any vertex group. So what happens is that this new material is not being used anywhere. It is only being made and it is not being used. So what I will do is press on assign, and hence if you see now this object has an emission shader attached to it. All right. I'll just repeat the same process for a couple of times so that you understand what just happened. Say I have multiple different faces. Say I select this face and this face. Okay. Shift select. So I have two faces selected. Now what I will do is I'll click on the material that I had made later on and I'll press on assign. So if I click on assign, what happens is that these both faces are now assigned this emission shader that I had made, not the shader that I had on earlier. Okay. I'll just select these again, go on material, that is the dark gray color that I had earlier on. As you can see in the solid viewport here, you have these faces selected. And what I'll do is go ahead and assign the dark gray material. So it'll assign and it has gone back to the color that it was earlier. If you see over here, this face, it has a principal BSDF shader right now. But if you see in Blender, I'll just delete this for once from this material. I'll give it light. I'll give it the name light. And I'll just delete this shader for now. And if I add a new shader, you have many options. As you operate in viewport, similarly, you can operate in the shader editor. Click on Shift A in the view in the shader editor. Click on Shift A, and you see different shaders. So from here, I'll click on emission shader. You can also search. So you can search emission, and you'll find emission shader over here. Place it over here. Link emission the output to the surface. And now you can give it the color that you want. So I'll just zoom in. You have this. I'll give it some shade of yellow. All right, a warm yellow. And I'll increase the strength. As you increase the strength, you can see the difference in the material preview as you change the strength. Okay, so I'll give it a strength of around 5. I think that works. And the flashlight has been given this different shader. So I'll just give you guys a minute to work this out and ask if you have any other doubts.
Yeah, what is actually a node and why are we using it?
Oh, sorry, why are we using what?
Nodes, when
Okay.
we can do all of that in the properties tab and all. Why are we
Exactly.
using nodes?
So, okay, that's a great question. Allows me to explain different things. So what we can do here is, if you see properties tab, you can easily select the color and easily select the strength, as he mentioned. But what happens in nodes is that you can go through multiple nodes at once. You can add different nodes over here. Say, for example, I give it a noise texture. Okay, I give it a noise texture and put this in color. So now it no longer has the color that it was given earlier on, and it has a completely different color altogether. Okay, now if I increase the scale over here, you might be able to actually see the difference. And I'll change this to 3D only. Increase the detail or distortion, and you will see the difference over here. I can also play with different nodes. Say I have a different, say I add a Voronoi texture, okay, and I link this into color. Now what you see in Blender is that each input or output has a different color. So emission as in output has green and surface also has green. So you can link both of these. Now you cannot link green to purple. Even if you can, it will give you undesired results. So link yellow to yellow, and now you see a completely different output over here. You see multiple colors. If you increase the scale, you see difference over here. If you select different objects, select.
So can't we apply all these effects through the properties tab, or do we have to necessarily use nodes for this?
From the properties tab as well, I think you could add, but it won't be it won't be as intuitive as you can over here. So for example, if you click on Voronoi over here, you can select Voronoi, or you can select different things from over here. But say I delete this object, right? So from here, you have different options from here, but you won't be able to understand or visualize multiple nodes as easily. If I were to give you an example, I'll just open up this JPEG. All right, so this was one of the files that I worked on, and if you see on this part over here, right, if you see this part over here, it has so many different nodes attached to it. Now you cannot manage so many nodes simply through the properties tab, because it's too many nodes to manage. So this shader editor in particular is helpful if you're working with many nodes. All right.
Yeah, and what is subsurface color like?
What is surface?
Surface is like the face of an object.
Right. Yeah. So surface is all the faces that you have. So if you select volume over here, we'll also be using volume in the scene, but surface gives you gives the face a color, essentially.
The subsurface color. That's the base color, like, I guess.
Subsurface is a different thing actually, so I won't name it subsurface. You can name this face a vertex group, as Blender does. So Blender basically names these parts as vertex groups. Okay. Okay. It names these as vertex groups. So what I will do is now, maybe I select this, and this face. Okay. Say I want all of these faces. You can click on Alt to select a whole loop. Okay. So click on Alt, Shift, and select these faces. So I'm continuously selecting these faces, every alternate face. Okay. All right. It does not have a odd number of faces there, hence this trouble. But what you can see here is that I've selected all these faces, and now I can add it as a vertex group. Say this has the name group, and I'll assign this to the selected objects. So I've assigned this to all these objects. Now what I can do is I'll go ahead, say I click randomly somewhere else, but I want to select the faces that I had selected earlier. So I'll click on group and I'll click on select. Then all those groups which I had, okay, hold on. It should only be showing the faces that I selected earlier. Save this. All right. I'll add a new group. I'll assign this, and now deselect this, select this. Okay, I think there's some problem with selecting it, but you can actually assign some faces a vertex group, and it will be made as a new group. So similarly, what I wanted to do is that I'll shift select these alternate parts of the cylinder over here. I've selected all these alternate parts. I'll go into material and I'll give it a new object. Say I make a new object and I give it a color of, say, reddish, but dark red. Okay. I don't think there's need to change any other properties. And then I'll assign this. So this has now the materials that I had selected. Right. Okay. So this is how the torch looks now. I'll give this also a name, dark gray. Right. If you can see, we have now given the torch a color. And since we're now done with this, I'll select all the objects. Sorry, I'm in the edit mode. I'll exit the edit mode, pressing tab. I'll select select all the objects from over here. And I alt hide, that is alt H, and all of them will unhide. Okay. So now we have our complete scene over here. As you can see, the torch has a emission shader. This light has an emission shader, and the rest of the parts of the torch have a different shader altogether. So again, I'll give you 3 to 4 minutes to work on that and ask if you have any other doubts. Right. All right. Do you have any other doubts regarding this scene? How to use emission in torch? Okay. So if you see the torch over here, and so I move into shading editor. If you select the torch over here, you can see that I have given it 3 different materials. Okay. Now, generally you have only one material. You can press on add over here in the very right of your screen. You see a plus sign, and it shows add material slot. Right. So if you click on add material slot, enter into edit mode here. Enter into edit mode and only select the face that you want to assign the material to. Okay, so say I have this new material and I want to assign it to only this face. I only want to assign it to this particular face, the new material that I've selected. Okay, so I'll click on new. I get a new material from here. If you want to give it emission, what you can do is simply add emission from over here. Go and say I want bright blue. Okay, and I'll give it something like a strength of around maybe say 10. I'll give it a strength of 10. Now, till now, this material has not been assigned to this face. So this material has been created. I'll give it a name light blue emission. But this material has not been assigned to any of the faces or any of the objects. So you can see it over here. Now I've selected this. I've selected the face over here, and I'll click on assign. So this face has been assigned the light blue emission shader or light blue emission material. What this means is that this particular face has the light blue emission material, while the other faces have their own different materials. All right. And now even if I exit edit mode, the material or the material would work as it did earlier on. All right. Hope this helps. Okay. All right. Okay, Nandlal will be providing the recording. Also, okay, how to select face. If you go into edit mode and press 3, you can go into face select mode. If you press on 2, you'll have edge select mode. If you press 1, you have vertex select mode. You can also switch between them from here on the very top. Okay, so I'll delete the light blue emission shader for now. Since it is being used, I'll have to first go into this and unable to remove because it is still being used. So I'll just assign dark gray to the face I'd selected earlier on and now delete it. Since it is in edit mode, I'll now delete it, and there you go. So I'll move on. I don't see any other questions. Also, before you guys all leave, I think Ishan has a feedback form for us. So do let us know how you found the workshop, if it was helpful or not. I'll be continuing with the workshop, and you can give your feedback as you wish. All right. Um, I'll continue with the workshop. So this is done for now. I'll go back to layout mode. This is how your scene looks in the material preview and in the rendered mode. Now in the rendered mode, it only has colors because I've assigned it. I have an area light in the scene. Say I hide my area light, then what happens? Okay, so I had my area light and I hide it. Then this is not actually visible. It has very low brightness since there is no other light. So this is a light source and it gives light to your scene. Now it has the power of 1000 watts as of now. Say I make it 10,000 watts. It will be super bright. Okay, so that is how lights work. You have multiple options for adding lights. So simply go into this mode, select Shift A, and you'll have options over here. You have a light option. You can have point, sun, spot, or area light. Now, even if you select a point light as of now, okay, this light has been added to the origin or the cursor. I'll just move it up. So G, Z, above Z axis, I brought it up. Now you can see over here. And even if you have added a point object, point light in the very beginning, you can change it to sun, spot, or area from the properties tab over here. All right. From the right bottom, you can see an object that has a light bulb, object data properties, and you can change the type of the light that it has. So say I change it to spotlight, okay, or sunlight. So in sunlight, it has a very different brightness, and as you can see over here, this is very bright. So I'll just move it, I guess, along Y and rotate it about X-axis. R about X. So there you go. I've moved it like this. How to enter views like this? You can simply click on the axis from here, all right? Or as you can see, you have shortcut numpad 7. So if you have a keyboard and if you click on numpad 7, then you will get to the very top view. Or you can also use Alt and middle mouse button. Alt plus middle mouse button will give you different, will let you switch between different views. So Alt and middle mouse button. All right. So it allows you to move along the axis. So all of your views will be around different axes. All right. So this is our scene as of now. Now what is rendering? Okay. So rendering basically means that when you're done with your scene, how would it finally look? Like all the views that you have right now, we are currently in rendered view. So all that you see right now is that the light has been calculated, how it bounces off different objects has been calculated, how the material would look in presence of light, in presence of different objects would look. All of this has been calculated through rendering. So when you render a scene, all of the objects, all of the elements, all of the lights, everything is being calculated, and then you get your final output. To give you a preview, if you click on this video camera toggle over here, you'll enter how you see from the camera. Okay, so I clicked on that, and this is what my camera is looking at right now. Okay, this is how it looks right now. Now if you press N, you'll get this toggle. If you press N, you get this multiple options. You'll see item, tool, and view. Now if you click on view and lock this or unlock this, say I have lock camera to view, you'll see this toggle. Say I unselect this and I move around, then I'll just be moving around in the viewport. But if I click on lock camera to view and go into view, okay, camera view, then as you move around, your camera will move around as well. So this is how I'm panning, this is how I'm rotating right now about this object. And this is what my camera is seeing right now. All right. So this is what my camera is seeing, and say I unlock this and then I want to move around. So my camera is now actually seeing the object and light the way that I want to. Say for example, you have the camera selected. Say I go here and here. Say my camera was pointing or seeing at something completely elsewhere. Okay. So right now the camera is seeing completely off my main object, right? So say I deselect this, my camera is actually looking somewhere else, whereas my object and my complete scene is over here. Over here my complete scene is there, but my camera is looking elsewhere, somewhere around here. So what you can do is that you select the camera, go into camera view, press N, and click on here, view lock camera to viewport. Okay. Now what you can do is, as you move around your scene generally, you can move around the scene, rotate, pan using shift. You rotate using the middle mouse button, and you pan using the shift button. Okay. Shift plus middle mouse button. So this is what I want my scene to actually render. All right. So this is how it goes. I hope everyone was clear with that. How to save shading changes. So shading changes would be saved anyway. It just matters if you actually go back to layout and you have solid viewport on, then you won't be able to see the changes. You can only see the changes in material view, preview, or render view. All right. And also it's a good habit to continuously save your file after a certain period of time. So in case your Blender crashes, it won't have the saved changes auto saved. There is a preference, there is an object over here, preferences, and you can auto save your system. There is an auto save every 2 minutes, which I've turned on. But if this is not on, it will not auto save. So in case your file is not auto saved, you will lose all the changes that you've made. So it's a good habit to continuously Command S or Control S to save the file. Okay. So that's it. I've done this for now. Now, if you see the outliner over here, let's go into render settings and what rendering actually means. Okay. So whatever you're rendering, it will only be viewed through the camera. Rest, everything in your scene will not be seen. Okay. So whatever the camera sees is only the part that will get rendered. So if I'm seeing this right now, this is the only part that will get rendered, and not maybe some object that I have over here. So say if I add a cube, move it around here behind somewhere, give it a emission shader, give it a normal colored shader, say green color, dark greenish. Okay. So if I have that object over here and the only thing my camera is seeing is this, then that cube will not matter in the render. What render actually means is that it will give you an output. It can either give you a series of images, it can either give you a video, or it can give you a single image. All right. So as you can see right now, all these lines and everything that you're seeing will not be visible in render. All these grids and everything that you're seeing will not be visible in render because it's part of an overlay. If I deselect the overlay, from the top right corner, you have the option of overlay. If you see my cursor over here, from top right, you have the option of overlay. You can turn it on and off. And if you switch it off, this is the thing that you will be getting in your final render. Okay. If you have selected, all right. So I'll go ahead, show you what are render settings and what it looks like. So we have 3 different options. Workbench is basically the render engine that solid viewport works in. So it won't have any materials and it won't the materials won't interact with light. Cycles is the most advanced render engine, and it has more complex light calculations than Eevee. Eevee is the render engine that will currently run it in. Sampling means the higher the samples, the more precise your render will be. So it won't be grainy. If you lower the amount of render samples, the render will turn out to be more and more grainy. You can turn on and off viewport denoising. All of these are very complex and very vast settings that if you want to learn, we can have a different session on, and you can give these suggestions in the Google form that we've given. If you want to learn all of these settings, we can have a session on that. Finally, what matters is your final output and how it will look, right? So this has, if you change from the camera thing to the printer photo thing, you'll get different options over here. Resolution about X, about Y. The percent actually gives you compression. Aspect is aspect ratio 1:1. Render region, all of this is not really important. Frame start and frame end is in case that you're rendering an animation, what part of the animation would you actually be rendering? So that is a completely different thing which can be used during animations. Output is where you want to save your output files. So I'll click on over here. I'll go into downloads, animations, coding club, Blender Apogee, and I'll select this file over here and accept. So my output file will be put into the file path that I've selected over here. Saving file extensions, cache result is not important. What is the file format that you want to save this in? Now there are many options. It is preferable, or generally people save it in PNG or .jpeg file because those are the most popular ones. So I'll go with PNG. These are the colors that I'll be using. Color depth you can increase or decrease. Compression, as you can see over here, amount of time to determine best compression 0 equals to that is, if this setting on 0, there will be no compression at all, and there will be complete compression if this is on 0. And if you increase this percentage, there will be no compression at all, and it will take more time to actually render out this thing. So now let's go ahead and actually render our file. So if you see over here, you have a setting render, and if you click on render image, it'll actually start calculating in a different setting. See, so yeah, this is what my final render looks like. Now you see there is a plane over here, which actually we cannot see in our scene over here, right? So the plane was hidden over here, right? But it was actually present. So from filters, if you click on this filter sort of thing over here, go on that and click on this camera icon. So your camera here means whether this object will be rendered or not. So say I deselect this, I click off the camera on the plane, and now I render. So F12 gives you a new render, and now there is no plane. Earlier there was a plane, but I deselected the render from top right over here, that the plane would not be viewed in the render, and hence the plane disappeared. Okay. I hope it's clear up till now. I'll just check on for any doubts. Okay. Will there be more workshop practice? Okay, so we can have more workshop sessions if you guys wish to learn more. As of now, since we have limited time, we only covered rendering, 3D modeling, texturing, a little bit of nodes, lighting, scene setup, everything like of that sort. But there are many more things that you could do in Blender. For example, if I simply go through the properties tab over here, you have ambient occlusion, bloom. What bloom means is whether your lights actually glow or not. Okay, so that is what it means by bloom. Depth of field means that your camera would actually be focusing only on the object or not. You have different objects. Yeah, so Ishan will be putting out our emails, and all of you can definitely contact us if you have any doubts and if you want to work on Blender, or if you want to learn more of this. So Ishan will be putting out all our contacts, mine, Ishan's, Abhinav's, and Nikhil's. Here you go. And you can contact us anytime if you have any doubts, and if you want to be a part of game development of the coding club, you can definitely reach out. We'll give you a couple of tasks, and once you're done with the tasks, you can be a part of the game development team. Going ahead, we have motion blur. All of these, there are multiple settings. These are the settings for your actual output, where the output will be saved. This is something that is not really useful for us right now. This has seen the camera that you will be using. So you can have multiple cameras in a scene, right? So say this was the case earlier on. I on the overlay so that I can see the lights and cameras and everything. Say I add a new camera over here. Click on Shift A, and you can see camera over here. I added a new camera, and this new camera I'll just move around Z-axis and again move except for Z-axis. So this is my second camera, and if I select from this, if I go to camera 1, now if you see over here, there's a very tiny detail, but it's really important. So if you see the top of the camera, it has a solid triangle, right? Now if it has a solid triangle, that means that this is the active camera. But if you go ahead, if I go ahead and select this camera again, the left one, I go ahead and select that, then this will have a wireframe triangle and this will have a solid triangle, which means that this is the active camera and not this one. So I go ahead and select this one. I go into camera view. I rearrange this. All right, go ahead and lock camera to view. I go ahead, I go to the back of this scene. All right, I go to some place like this. I'll lock this off. Here you go. And now if I render this, press on F12, render the image, then the image that you will be getting is from the second camera and not the first camera. Okay. So this is how this changes. What camera you're using, that matters. Next, if you want to render audio and everything, you can actually render audio also within the application. Now this is world. Okay. So what world means is the rest of your scene. This is the complete background, right? So if you see our previous renders, on the previous renders, you saw gray background, right? But that gray is only due to this. And if I darken it right now, as I did, okay, I darkened it and I increase its thing. So now if I render it, you'll see a darker background. So that is your world. World is the complete background that your scene is in. This is the final render output. If I change this color to be something like, say, pink, okay, now it'll obviously look very weird, but if I render it, then this is what it looks like. All right. So this is the world settings in the background. Then you have all these settings for transforming your object. Whenever you have any object selected, how you transform it goes from here. I'll just delete this cube. Over here, select this. You have modifiers, as Ishan already mentioned, that has array, bevel, boolean, all of these things. And you have physics, right? So you can have fluid simulations, you have things like that. You have rigid body, you can collide different objects. You can have objects made as actual cloth. You have rigid body constraints, everything of this sort. If I say I have a new object from mesh, I add an icososphere, move it along Z-axis somewhere over here. All right, so we can do a fluid simulation if time permits, but I don't think we have the time as of now. So we'll move ahead. You can add an object constraint, that is, you can allow the object to copy the transformation or location of a different object. So say for example, I select this and I select say copy location, right? So if I click on copy location and I select a target object, so this target object could be anything, and you see a eyedropper over here. If you click on eyedropper, you can actually select objects from the scene. So if I click on this camera over here, this icososphere will actually copy the location of the camera. So if I click on this, the icososphere immediately moves to the location of the camera. So this is something that you could be using for any sort of things that you want. Now, if you want to restrict the movement, you can restrict the movement only along x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. You can invert these axes. So now I selected invert along invert y-axis. So this has a I'd say positive value of y-axis. So that is inverted for the icososphere, and it has a negative value of the same negative value that the camera has on positive of y-axis. Okay, so that is it. Target, owner, all of these are multiple things that you could really learn later on. As I said, vertex groups, and these are the materials that you could add finally. There are many options through noding in materials as well that you could experiment with. All right, I'll give it a shade of gray again in order to render. You could also input hex code into this if you have a particular hex code in mind for the background or any colors that you want. So finally, this is our rendered output with the plane, the guy having a torch, and that's it. You guys can take a couple of minutes and try it out by yourself.
Yeah, like can you show like how to animate this option? Like if I want
Yeah.
to move it forward, like will you be
Alright,
showing
alright.
that in?
Okay, so I'll just give you an example as to how animation works. I'll just go with really basic animations because in order to make a character actually walk and translate about the same axis, you need to get into a lot of many other things such as rigging, bones, and kinematics. I'll not go deep into that. So say I hide all of this, not the cameras, but I hide the robot completely. There you go. So now you only have a camera in the scene. Say I have a new mesh that is a cube. Okay. Now how rendering works or how animations work, sorry, is that you have different keyframes over here, right? So you have a starting frame of 1 and ending frame of 50. So say I have this cube over here right now, and I want to move it along y-axis as time proceeds. Okay. As time proceeds, I want to move it to this location from where it was earlier on. So what I can do is, I just undid that. Screencast. Okay. Okay. So now my screencast works. I'll just go ahead. Say I want to move it to that location in the very first frame. Now, if you see your timeline over here, I'm in the very first frame. And what you can do is click on I. Okay, if you click on I, you'll get a list of options and you can go with lock rod scale, that is location, rotation, and scaling. So what I'm doing right now is that I'm keyframing all of these locations to the frame 1. So I've keyframed all of these locations to keyframe 1. But what I want to do is that when I'm on the 40th frame, I want this object to go about y-axis, move someplace over here. I want it to get larger, and I want it rotated about the x-axis, say. Okay. Now, if you see on the very right side, you in the properties tab, you see that some of these properties have turned orange. Okay. Now, if I select, click on the, if I hover over these options and I press I, then you'll see there is a keyframe inserted in this very same location. So I'll keyframe all of these things as well. Or you can do the same thing. You can click on I and click on lock rod scale, and all of these things will be keyframed. And now if you go back, okay, so if you go back to the previous keyframe and if you play your animation, you can press spacebar or you can play directly from over here. If you hover over this, you can see shortcut is written as spacebar. I spacebar it, it actually moves. Okay, so this is the absolute basics of how you animate. So I move this and it animates like this. Now what you can actually do is, if you can see very closely, all of these movements are linear. If you can see all of these movements, so even if it's scaling, even if it's rotating, or even if it's moving along the y-axis, all of these changes are linear. If you want to change this, you can go here, select these keyframes, right click, and you will see an option interpolation mode. So if you change these types of interpolation mode, say I go on to constant, okay, say I select constant for an example. So what will happen is that from the first frame, it will stay over here, but on exactly on the 40th frame, okay, exactly on the 40th frame, it will go to the final output that I had selected on the 40th frame. Okay, so there are multiple types of interpolation. I can go back to this and select exponential. So for exponential, what would happen? Let's see how it works. All right, you see a rapid change towards the very end. But if I go ahead and turn it back to linear, let's see what happens. It changes linearly. Okay, so and you can apply animations, you can apply this keyframing concept to almost anything. So if you want to change the material of this object, you can also change the color of this color of the material of this object using keyframes. All right, so that is a very basics of, yeah, the camera can also move. You can also put the camera to actually follow the motion of the cube if you want. So if you select the camera, you go into camera constraints over here, and you can see options like this. So track, follow path, child off, and all of these objects can actually make your camera move along with the cube that you want, or along any curves that you want. Okay, great.
Bhaiya, can you give a small example of how to apply that physics, like a very basic example, how to use that physics element?
Physics. Okay, so I'll move on to physics. Do any of you guys have any other doubts other than physics? So before moving on to physics, I'll get on to that. But if you have any other doubts, go ahead. Regarding the thing that we rendered, whatever our workshop is exactly for, main robot thing. If you have any other doubts, go ahead and you can shoot any of the questions that you want. I'll try to answer them as much as I could. Okay, great. So if you're already done with the part that as much as I've done over here, there are also other concepts such as principal volume involved in the actual tutorial. So I think what you should do is that go ahead and finish the tutorial, the last 2 videos of the tutorial. You can avoid making the monster and simply go to the final render, the final video, make the scene, lights, and completely follow through the tutorial and get the final render if you could. All right. There's also a new assignment that I've given in the resources link over here, and that is a post workshop assignment. So that is again a tutorial. If you wish to learn more of Blender, you can go through and follow this tutorial in order to learn that. Okay, and that's it. If you don't have any other doubts, I'll go ahead with the physics simulation. All right, I'll just give a moment. If you have any other doubts, shoot in the chat box or unmute yourselves and you can ask. For any juniors from BITS Pilani, if you wish to join Coding Club, we'll be putting out a recruitment form after this workshop. And if you're really interested, you can go ahead and register for the club. Thank you.
Yeah, like I wanted to ask. Hello,
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask about this coding club thing. Like, do you use Blender only for game development because I am interested in the animation part only, like,
Okay.
or they are there any other subsystems like.
Yeah. So what I'll say is that me personally, and all of us on the Blender team, what we do is that throughout the course of, sorry, excuse me. So throughout the course of the semester, we don't actually have a lot of projects to work on. So we only get work when there is Oasis or Apogee coming up for the actual game development. So for the rest of the time, what we do is that we give out different projects to juniors. That is, we have Abhinav and Nikhil right now. Um, so all the doubts that you have, or if you want to work on animations, you can definitely work with us on the animations. So the projects that I showed to you, um, that I've worked on, are completely something that I've worked on personally, and all of those are animations. So if you want to be a part, you'll have to work for game development before OSS and Apogee. But other than that, you can work by yourself, and you can refer to, or you can ask questions to the seniors as and when you wish. That's it. If you have any other doubts regarding coding club or something, you can contact us directly later on. Um, we have given our contacts, emails, everything. All right. Do you have any other doubts regarding the workshop, the final output that we had? I'll just upload the render that I just did, in order, if anyone wants to refer to it later on. Till that time, if you have any other doubts, you can ask in the chat box. And okay, I'll be adding the contacts to the resources folder as well. I'll also email the contacts later on if you wish. Okay, hope that works. Um, all right. Um, okay, I'll just wait for a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, and um, if you're done, if you don't have any other doubts about the render, if you wish to leave, you can leave. I'll be carrying on with the physics simulation, and that's it. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a doubt. Like when you said you can render audio in that, like what is meant by you can render audio? Like?
So rendering audio means that if you have added any MP3 file in the scene itself, you can render that along with the video. So whenever you're rendering a video, the audio will be a part of that video. Okay. All right. Um, okay. I'll carry on with the physics part. Um, okay. So in the scene over here, um, I'll just do a thing. I'll clear out the robot for now. Add a cube maybe. Okay. So yeah, we have this cube. Um, I'll duplicate a couple of cubes. All right. So I have a couple of cubes over here. I'll add an object from which the fluid will flow. Okay. So I'll add an say an icososphere, move it about that axis somewhere around here. Now I have to give it the physics property. Okay, so you have a physics tab over here, and I'll give it a fluid property. I'll give it, okay, so whenever you're working with fluids, there are three different types of objects, right? So there is domain, and domain basically means that what is the area or what is the volume in which the fluid actually exists or the fluid works. So domain will be a completely different thing. I'll add a bigger cube that will be labeled as domain. For right now, this sphere acts as a inflow of actual fluid, right? So I'll go in flow type, add fluid. Flow behavior is inflow because there will be fluid flowing into the scene from this sphere. All right, I'll be using flow. Sampling substeps is something you could work on later on. Flow source is mesh. All of this, if you want to give it an initial velocity, you could go ahead and do that. If you want to give it a surface emission, you could go ahead and do that. For now, I'll just keep it simple. I'll add another cube, or I can simply duplicate this one, Shift D, and I'll place it about, I guess, somewhere around here. All right. I'll scale it up so that it encompasses everything that you see over here. All right, and I'll turn this to wireframe so that we can actually see the rest of the our scene. You have a modifier over here known as wireframe. I just went ahead and give it a wireframe modifier. Does not matter. So now you can actually see the scene, and you can click on apply over here and it will be applied. So this is the cube that we have. Now what you can do, go ahead and give it a domain modifier. Okay, so now this acts as a domain. This complete cube is a domain for the water, and okay, this is the source. Since this has the domain properties, when you go ahead, you'll actually see what type of fluid you have. I selected liquid over here. Resolution division is um, how big or small the fluid is. Time scale and everything will will change as we want to as we proceed. Border collisions, whether the fluid will actually have collisions with the domain. So you could unselect this if you do not want the fluid to have collisions with the domain. I've kept them selected. This simulation method is something you do not want to work on as of now. We'll keep all of these settings as default right now, and we'll try out as how this actually looks like. We have inflow over here, resumable open D, viscosity, diffusion, particles. We don't need particles right now. Okay, we have this sampling substance. So I'll just animate this. Wait a second. Okay, so the first step is that you bake data. So all of the simulations that you have will be done after you're done baking. So once go ahead and bake data. And if you see over here, this is how your fluid will look like. If you see the blue and green lines, that is how your fluid will go ahead and move. Now you have all these cubes in here as well, right? But we haven't given them a fluid property as of now. Hence, they are not interacting with the fluid. So I'll go ahead, select a cube, go ahead and put it in the effector type. Okay, so effector simply means that the fluid will either collide or guide the fluid. I'll keep it as collider and select is planar. You can use effector. I'll go ahead, select rest of the objects, this, and this, and Command L. I think I can give it the effects, and okay. So I think I'll have to add it individually. I'll just add it individually. Okay, so now that we've done with this, does not mean that when you play, it'll actually interact with these cubes because we haven't baked the data again yet. Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll free the data and we'll bake it again. So when you bake it again, once we're done with, somewhere around here, we'll go ahead and play this. So see, it's interacting with all of the cubes that are present in the scene. If you want to see it from the camera view, all right, now this is the data that has not been made into a mesh yet. So if you want to go ahead, you can go down here is resumable and you can click on mesh. This would mean that the fluid that we have would actually generate a mesh which you can change and edit later on. We are keeping it on the default settings right now. We can change settings later on. We can bake mesh. Okay, so here you go. All right, this is how the fluid is actually interacting with the scene. Since we are in rendered view and we haven't made the area light visible, I guess. Okay, I'll just add a new area light rather than having that in the collection. I'll add a new area light over here. GZ, I'll just scale it up and I'll give it a power of 1000. Okay, so you can see that. Now we can lock camera to view, zoom out a little so that we can see the complete scene. Okay, and I'll just click over here. All right, so now once you play spacebar, you can actually see the mesh flowing about the cubes. So this is how fluid simulation works. You can change the resolution of the particles. You can make them smaller, you can make them more interactive, everything of that sort. For now, I guess this is it. Do you have any other doubts? Yeah, so as Nikhil mentioned, you can use shading and texturing to mimic water. So when I have this selected, you can go ahead in shading mode, and you can give it a new shader. Delete this, add a new glass modifier, and transparent modifier. Add shader. So these are all advanced concepts a little. So if you want to work on these, you can work on later. I'll just put them in. Add the shader to the shader, and IOR is correct. I'll increase the roughness a little. Keep it on black. Okay. So once in rendered. All right. Do you have any other doubts?